And good evening and welcome to another edition of Sports Corner. My name's Ralph Williams and my co-host Smokin Jim Frazier by way of the telephone. Smokin Jim, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Ralph. Looking forward to this show.
Absolutely, and we got talking wrestling tomorrow night at 7 o'clock or 7:30. I'm sorry, tomorrow night. Talking wrestling. We got a lot to talk about in the world of wrestling as well as we have tonight in the world of sports tonight as well. So I'm waiting for Matt GRUBBA. He's going to be coming on shortly. He is from the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. He's the media relations director. He's going to come on and talk with us about what's going on with the Riverhounds soccer team and how things are going and what's going on. They have some preseason games coming up. So we're going to be talking to him shortly as soon as he comes on the air here in a few short seconds. 9 o'clock, we have ARTIE SORCE. And ARTIE is a host of a satellite sports radio program on Sirius and XM satellite. He's also a former player for the USC Trojans and a whole lot more. So we're going to talk to him at 9 o'clock, and he has a lot to say about what's going on in the world of sports. All right, Smokin Jim, let's get started with the Steelers as we normally do. They signed Anthony Miller to a contract, the wide receiver that they had in camp. He was in preseason. He was on the roster a few times throughout the season, then put back on a practice squad, whatever they were doing with him. He got hurt, I think, and things like that. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, they can't go wrong at receivers. I mean, the receivers in the NFL are so much superior than the defensive cornerbacks and defensive backs. So if you stockpile yourself with some receivers, you can't go wrong.
Okay, Smokin Jim, we have Matt GRUBBA from the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Matt, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ralph. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. My co-host, he's by phone, Smokin Jim Frazier. This is Matt GRUBBA from the Pittsburgh Riverhounds.
Hey, Matt, how you doing, buddy?
All right.
How you doing? Jim, we met a long time ago, I think, at I was working for the Trib at a City League Hoops Championship or something like that. It was one of those sort of things.
That's an interesting story. Matt, tell us a little bit about what's going on with the Riverhounds. I know they got some preseason games coming up. Who are they playing?
Yeah, well, and Rob, I hate to correct you first. GRUBBA, just for future reference.
GRUBBA, I'm sorry, Matt. Wow.
That's all right.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big time of year for us. Just actually today had our last set of tryouts. Just some guys, behind closed doors coming in to get our last few invitees that'll be starting camp with us on Monday. And once we start camp Monday, it really comes quick. We're going on the road to Columbus, to the MLS team on first Saturday of preseason. Then we've got some of the top college teams coming in here as part of their spring schedule. We'll be playing Penn State and Akron, who some people may not know, but Akron's pretty powerhouse soccer program. They've won a national title in the last decade, and so those are three good preseason tune-ups. And then before you know it, it's going to be March 11th. We're on the road to start the regular season, and we're here at Highmark Stadium on the south side on the 24th.
Wow, that's great. I know you signed some free agents. Tell everyone who they are.
Yeah, so our off-season moves so far, our biggest new face for people will be a guy who was an all-league performer in the USL in our league a number of years ago, Joe Farrell. He's been in Phoenix, who's been probably over the last 5 years, they've been the best team out in the Western Conference. He's a center back. He's a big guy, has a knack for getting forward and scoring goals with his head. Just because he has the size, but he's strong as well. He can mix it up, and he brings a nice physical presence. And he played for our coach. He played for Bob Lilly as a rookie in Rochester. It was his first professional stop back about 7 seasons ago. So, he's going to be a nice acquisition to sort of shore up the middle of our defense. In terms of bringing guys back as well, Edward Kizza, who was a Pitt grad. He was top scorer for Pitt for a number of years and then was drafted by New England Revolution in MLS. He joined us midway through last season on a loan deal. Just, New England wanted to get him a little more playing time. They opted not to pick up his contract for next year, which was, their choice turned out to be our good fortune, because I think Kizza's a happy guy to be back in Pittsburgh, where he had so much success in college. And, he had a couple big goals in the playoffs for us last year, so we're happy to have him on a full year basis.
Matt, explain about the Bob Lilly. I know he's done well here with the River Hounds. Where did he come from before he was here? Before he's here.
So yeah, Bob is. I mean, he's an institution. He's the longest tenured coach in our league in the USL. He started out in the old A League, which was back in the '90s.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was where the Riverhounds originally played.
Originally started, right?
Playing out of Bethel Park, but at that time, Bob was the coach of the Hershey Wildcats. He was across the state. He had coached some previously. He even had some Pittsburgh ties. He played for the old Stingers back at the Civic Arena back in the early '90s for the indoor team.
Yeah, I remember the Spirit.
Yeah, he was with the Stingers, the short-lived one that came after the Spirit.
I remember. Okay.
But Bob has been around. He's had stints there. He had stints with Montreal Impact, where they won a championship. He was with Vancouver Whitecaps, and had a long run in Rochester with the Rhinos, who longtime rival of the Riverhounds. They also won a championship in 2015 while he was there, and through again one of those things where they weren't able to field a team come the 2018 season, and that turned out to be very fortunate for us here at the Riverhounds because we were searching for a head coach at the same time that happened. So just his Pennsylvania ties and it just everything worked out that we were able to bring in, a guy who's, in multiple halls of fame, at different levels and just, a proven winner everywhere he's been.
That's great. I have a question for you. I interviewed, in 1999, when the Riverhounds got started, I interviewed Dave Casper. I had him on my radio sports show on WEDO radio. And, I interviewed him. Have you seen him or has he been around the organization at all?
Not with that. I mean, Dave is still, he's in MLS with DC United. He's had quite a good run, well, quite a lengthy run. I know they've had some hard times in recent seasons, so I don't want to call it good, or I'll have DC United fans mad at me. But he's been there. I spoke to him at one point, actually doing a feature for the Trib in my previous role. When we at the Hound, I say we, the Hounds played DC United in the U.S. Cup back in 2015, which was a huge, moment for the team here, getting a home game against an MLS team. And, he's doing well. He's successful there. He still has his Pittsburgh roots, his Pittsburgh ties. I mean, he will always be the original GM of the Riverhounds. So he's a Hounds lifer. I know that.
We have Matt GRUBBA from the Pittsburgh Riverhounds with us tonight to give us some perspective on what's going on with the Riverhounds soccer team who play over at Highmark Stadium over at Station Square. Smokin Jim, do you have any questions for Matt? Smokin Jim. I hope we didn't lose him.
Uh-oh.
Smokin Jim? I don't even hear him. Oh. Well, okay, anyway. Matt, tell us about some of the tougher teams in this league here that the Riverhounds play for. I know Louisville's tough. Yep. Name some of the other ones. Well,
I mean, Louisville's a great place to start. They've been sort of the powerhouse of the East since they came in here. Tampa Bay Rowdies, who, old-time soccer fans will remember that name from the old NASL back in the 70s. That franchise sort of got rebooted over the last decade, and now they're another one of the top teams in the East. We've always had some tough games with them. That's in the Eastern Conference. Have to mention San Antonio. They're the defending champs this year. They won their first title. They're always, even though San Antonio maybe not one of the bigger markets in the league, they always have a fair amount of money behind them because they are owned by the ownership group of the San Antonio Spurs. So
wow.
I mean, yeah. So they're a well-equipped, well-managed group down there, and last year they had a team that could just choke out games. They'd get a 1-0 lead on you, which was we played them once in the regular season, and that's what they beat us by, 1-0, and then just sort of kill off games. Not always pretty or fun to watch, but they were effective at it, and they're going to be tough again this year.
Matt, let me ask you this tough question here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing some stories that the Maulers might be playing at Highmark Stadium if they decide to ever have a home stadium. Because once again, the USFL seems to are doing the central locations, but this time they're having the north teams playing the north and in the north somewhere, the south playing the south, and the west. You understand what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
if the Maulers need a home place to play, would Highmark be the place for them, or are you guys just using it for soccer and lacrosse and all that stuff?
No, I mean, we would be happy to host the Maulers here, and I don't know for sure if there have been any of those discussions or how deep they've been. I mean, my awareness of the USFL is they're sort of doing pods this year, where like a lot of the games in Detroit, or whereas last year they all played in one place. No, I mean, we would be perfectly happy to host them. We've hosted football here before. I mean, certainly in the early.
Yeah, you guys used to host a Passion. I remember that.
They were here for a couple years early on. Central Catholic High School played here for a number
I didn't know Central played there. I know they play over at CMU.
Yeah, well, they actually played most of their home schedule except for they always keep homecoming over at CMU, I know. But yeah, they were playing their home schedule here right up until about the COVID year hit, and then they've not been back. So, but yeah, and they'd also had some changes in their administration.
Yeah, because I heard some small rumors that that Highmark just wanted that for, basically just for soccer and lacrosse and maybe some football camps, but that's it. So that's why I asked you that question.
Yeah, no, we at Highmark Stadium, we are happy to have, I mean, certainly the Riverhounds are first priority, but we're happy to have anyone. I mean, this will be our second year coming up this winter and spring, being the home field for Pitt Lacrosse, like you mentioned, since they started. They had a great first season playing here, making the ACC tournament in their first year of existence. So, we're looking forward to having them back. As far as the USFL team, I mean, we would be happy if this became the home for them. There's some other both sports events and non-sports events. I mean, we hosted the Pittsburgh Jazz Festival. I mean, we can get out concert stages on the field here. So I mean, we're always looking to grow this venue and bring in events people in Pittsburgh want to see. I mean, we feel like the Riverhounds are something that fans everywhere should want to come down here. It's a great night at the river, but even if it's not the Riverhounds at Highmark Stadium, we think we have, with no disrespect to PNC Park, we think we have the best view of the city right here, looking across from the south side, and I think we just have a great venue, great food and beverage, good deals. I don't think you can beat it for an intimate setting to watch a game, a concert, whatever it might be. Yeah,
my next question to you is: I know the fan base has been there. I know you guys have had some sellout games. I've watched a few on CW and whatnot. Is that going to be the case again probably this year? Do you have a lot of season ticket packages moving?
Yeah, well, that's the time of year we're at. We've got season tickets and flex books or our multi-game plans on sale. February 10th, the single game tickets will go on sale. But we're looking to try to beat last year. Last year was our most attended season at Highmark. I mean, we had average just short of 4,000 a game in a venue that seats 5,000. So I mean, our goal this year, I would say, and it's a very reachable, I think we'll get there kind of goal, is average of more than 4,000 a game here. I mean, we want to get to the point where, we're selling this out almost every day. And that I think that's around the corner as people learn about the team, see the success we've had over the last few years. That's the next step.
You have a friend of mine that's on the Allegheny County Transit Council with myself. I'm the president there, and he attends all the Riverhounds games. He's a season ticket holder. His name's Sean, and he's always there for all the games. And, he's a big Riverhounds fan and everything else. Matt, hang on a minute. Smokin' Jim, you still on the line here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, do you have any questions for Matt?
No, I'm enjoying the conversation.
I was looking for you a little earlier there. I didn't hear you, so I was hoping you were still there. All right, Matt, thanks for being on the program. I really appreciate it, and we'll try to get you on again in the future. Talk some more Riverhounds, and good luck with the season. Oh, by the way, I have a really good Louisville joke. You ready?
Okay.
These two guys, they were in Burger King, and they're sitting there talking and arguing back and forth. Oh, we're in Louisville. No, we're in Louisville or Louisville, right? So they're at a Burger King, and they're sitting there eating, and the guy comes over that's from Burger King to pick up their trays and everything, and he goes, "Excuse me, can you tell me where we are?" And the guy went, "You're at Burger King.
What a note to leave on.
I had to
right
tell that Louisville joke. All right, Mac, thank you very much for being here. You have a great night and be safe. Thank you so much for being on the program. All right, that was Matt GRUBBA from the Pittsburgh Riverhounds Media Relations Director, and it was great to have him on here talking about the Riverhounds. And now we're going to go to our next guest, who we're going to get started at 9 o'clock, but he's on early, so we'll get him on early. His name is ARTIE SORCE. How are you?
Fantastic. Great to be with you, Ralph.
Hey, thanks for being on here. My co-host, Smokin Jim Frazier, is on the phone. Say hi to Smokin Jim.
Hey,
What's up, Smokin Jim? How are you?
How are you?
Things going good in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, we're doing okay here. I know you wanted
Just
to talk. I'm sorry?
Just down after a great weekend of football. 4 absolutely fun ball games. It was unbelievable, man. How about those 49ers and how about those Cincinnati Bengals, huh?
Yeah. I tell you what, I thought Buffalo was going to win that game, but Buffalo looked terrible. They, too many turnovers, and Artie, you could say the same thing that I've been saying for many, many times, and that is when you beat yourself, you're not going to win any games. And Buffalo beat themselves. You there, Artie? Hello.
Well, I got to say one thing. I mean, for the NFL, it was a fantastic thing. I kind of felt bad for Buffalo. They've had a rough. My hero was Jack Kemp. The last time they actually won a title in Buffalo, they had the great years with Marv Levy, had the great years with quarterback, another Pittsburgh native. Last 4 years, and I wonder, gentlemen, and I have to bring this up. I wonder, as good as Josh Allen is, if he just doesn't have mistakes, especially the other team's red zone. It just seems to be happening more and more often. And in big games, it leads to nothing but disaster. You saw it in the Dallas-San Francisco game. Dak Prescott played darn well. And then all of a sudden, the 2 interceptions, defense that the 49ers have put together. And there you go. You're down the road motors. And but you can't be more excited if you're the NFL. You've got the 4. Who would have ever bet that a guy like Brock Purdy would be going up against, Jalen Hurts for all the marbles to go to the Super Bowl? And you could have put long odds on that one, from Mr. Irrelevant to very relevant very quickly, at least in my mind, Ralph.
Oh, absolutely. And something, Brock Purdy was drafted late in the last round of the draft and everything else. And Smokin Jim, why don't you talk to Artie? You like Brock Purdy?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. What an exciting young man. I wish the Pittsburgh Steelers had him. I'll tell you that, man. He was 4-year starter for Iowa State. The last time him and Jalen Hurts hooked up, Brock Purdy threw 6 touchdowns and Jalen threw 5 touchdowns in college in the game. So 11, they combined for 11 touchdowns. Let's see if they can recreate that again on Sunday.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Artie, what are your thoughts for these games coming up here? We have the Niners and the Eagles, and then we have in the AFC we have the Kansas City and Cincinnati in a rematch from last year. Do you think Cincinnati has a chance again to beat Kansas City, or do you think with Mahomes and the high ankle sprain and everything, do you think he'll be able to pull through and get Kansas City back in the Super Bowl?
Well, if I look at the Kansas City-Cincinnati game, I got to tell you, there's been no better team than Cincinnati the last 10 weeks.
Yes.
And, I mean, they seem to have what it – Joe Burrow is phenomenal. He's now 5-1 in the playoffs. I mean, the kid has proved he can go on the road, in the snow, you name whatever they throw at him, he's unbelievable.
Right.
Then you have a defense that's really underrated. Lou Arumno has done a great job designing, and what he does is he looks at what a team does and he makes adjustments at half. This is something that is really underrated in football. It's something that I really see, and I think for Cincinnati to be favored by 1.5 on the road at Kansas City, and I mean, take nothing away from Patrick Mahomes. He's for real, no doubt about it. And so's Andy Reid. You look at the all-time history of coaches, Andy Reid is like 5th on the all-time list. He did it in Philly.
Right.
He's done it 5 straight, appearances in the AFC Championship game. Nobody can take that away. But here's what's missing to me for Kansas City. Can they take the top off the defense? Do they have somebody? I know McCole Hardman's out. Do they have somebody who can really stretch the field? As Al Davis, my old good friend when I worked for the Raiders, used to say, you got to have somebody. You got to go deep. My whole argument with the Pittsburgh Steelers is, their offensive coordinator, and I know he's a great guy, Matt Canada. I'm sure he is, but he never throws deep. They hand the ball off. It's 2nd and 8. Excuse me. They throw a pass. It's incomplete. Then they hand the ball off on 2nd and 8, and they're in 3rd and long. And they never stretch the field. They never vertically challenge the game. And my whole theory is, if you've got somebody like a Pickens, you got to throw deep to him 3-4 times a game just to spread the defense out. Now, let's go to the other game. 2 great defenses, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Philadelphia team up close and personal on the field. These are huge.
No, I've never been up close and personal.
These are big guys. That offensive line. I had a picture with my old teammate Anthony Munoz with I think their left guard, and I mean Anthony Munoz is 6'7", 325, and Malita made him look like a little kid, at 6'9", 4 bills. I mean, you got Lane Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Great on defense for San Francisco, and Kyle Shanahan, who's a quarterback whisperer. What he's done with Brock Purdy, a 4-year starter at Iowa State, it makes you wonder what the Jets were looking at. Makes you look at all these quarterbacks that have been drafted, and here's a kid that just makes no mistakes, has been put in a perfect offense with a lot of talent. 9 guys. I have a theory on Super Bowl winning teams. They have between 7 and 9 superstars. And if you look around that field, when you watch the game at 3:30 Eastern Sunday on Fox, you look at that field and you're going to see at any given time, no matter who's on the field, you're going to see 8, 9 Pro Bowlers, all pros. And let's face it, guys, all the coaching in the world can't make up for talent on the field. And what Sirianni has been able to do with this ball club, I mean, I heard about the press conference when he first arrived. He was a little off the wall, and these guys were looking around going, wow. Well, what they didn't know is this kid's been around coaching his whole life. Just like if you look at it, if you look at, 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, and of course the Miami coach, they were ball boys for Mike Shanahan in Denver. So they've been watching film. They've been doing their thing for a lot of years.
Yes.
So it's not like this is anything new for these guys.
These guys, right?
So I mean, if I had to pick the 2 teams right now, if I had to pick them, and this is just me, I would say the Super Bowl is going to be San Francisco and Cincinnati, a 3rd time around for both teams. Of course, San Francisco won the first 2, but I think this is the year for Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. I think they kind of got dogged a little bit at the end of the Super Bowl last year. I think the NFL had some bills to pay on that $6 billion stadium called SoFi. Not to say that they would ever do anything like that, but bottom line is I think that best team, on any given day, you know anything can happen in the NFL. But I'm sure excited about both games. What are your guys' thoughts on the games?
Well, I think that you're right. It could be I think it's going to be the 49ers in Cincinnati. Smoking Jim, who's your bet for the Super Bowl?
Well, I tell you what, man. I got to say Cincinnati and Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay, Smoking Jim says the Cincinnati Bengals and the Philadelphia Eagles, and you and I agree, Artie, that we're going to have the 49ers in Cincinnati. Next up, down there in the West Coast there, I want to talk a little bit about the Chargers. What's going on with Brandon Staley down there? I'm surprised he's still there. I thought he was going to get fired. What's your thoughts on him?
Well, the new thing now is make the guys fire their offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators, and I kind of understand that, but I'll be honest with you guys. The Chargers are really, they've blown 7 games in the last. All right, true blown 7 games with riverboat gambling, going for something stupid. I don't get it. I think it comes back to ownership. I think everything starts at the top, and when you look at the ownership of the Chargers, over the years, Marty Schottenheimer, something seems to go amiss in big games. I personally went all in on Sean Payton. Now, the latest rumor I heard from all my sources at Galaxy Sports is that Denver Broncos are absolutely infatuated with him. Russell Wilson wants $20 million potentially because the leverage Sean has with Carolina, Arizona, and these other opportunities, Indy. I can't see that, but Rob Walton and the CEO of the Broncos, Greg Penner, absolutely love Sean. One thing that it really amazes me is, and maybe I'm wrong here, but Sean Payton only really had 2 great seasons.
Right.
Out of all the seasons he's had. And for him to be the guy that sets the bar at $25 million per year, that's ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But hey, you know what? If you're Mr. Walton and you own Walmart, what's $25 million to you?
Exactly. It's nothing. Yeah. So, no wonder they're closing stores, Artie. Walmart's closing stores because of theft. So anyway, one other thing I wanted to ask you was
there you go.
One other thing I wanted to ask you was USC. What's USC going to do this year? They had a pretty decent year with Lincoln Riley, and then we ended up getting stuck with Keaton Slovis up here at Pitt. And, so what's USC looking like for this year? What do you think?
Supposedly, they've just picked up a couple of big linemen, a big kid from Florida. They're real excited about him. Here's an interesting stat, you guys. There were 27 college quarterbacks, okay, last year that made more money through NIL than Brock Purdy's going to make this year. So there's something amiss in college football when guys are making $2 million playing for 3 teams in 7 years because of COVID-19. I mean, come on, let's get real here. What's going on really in NCAA football? USC with Lincoln Riley, they're going to be fine. They're 8-1 to win it all, the 4th favorite. I mean, but these kids, I just wonder, at a certain point in time, I look at the Pac-12 where I played at USC, played for the Rams and the Raiders, and I go back to when we were the Pac-10 in the 70s, and, they used to get messy because they'd give us a little cash so we'd have some money, right? Well, those horses have left the barn. Let's put it that way. Guys making $2.5 million, having foundations in college. Really, is this what the game has come to?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, at a certain point in time, you remember the big between Saban.
Yes, I do. Yeah,
Saban and Texas getting into for who's buying. Yeah, they've got to put a rein on this somehow, some way, Ralph. I mean,
the NCAA.
Same with you. What are you guys' thoughts on that, Smoking Jim?
I think the NCAA has to get their act together. I think they need to, have these kids stay for 4 years. The transfer portal can't get active until after the bowl games. You can't fire a coach until after the bowl games. It's ridiculous. You got interim coaches in bowl games, and then you can't have your best players because they all want to leave or they all want to go to the NFL. The NCAA got to get some stricter rules here, or these bowl games are going to be a joke, Artie. And Smokin' Jim, what do you think?
Yeah, man, you guys covered it all, man. I agree with you. You both.
Right, exactly. They have to clean their house up because if they don't pretty soon, Artie.
And you know what else? You know what else scares me a little bit, guys?
Yes.
What else scares me a little bit is the rich are getting richer. Okay.
Yes.
And
yes.
pretty soon, you're going to need a super conference. You're going to basically have 60 teams, of which probably 12 will make the playoffs. You're going to have to make some of these Independence Bowls, like, you know, a part of the early round games. And I would like to see some of the schools, you know, that maybe don't have a chance. Your Houstons, your Central Floridas. I would like to see them get a couple of entrants into the tournament, because we saw what Cincinnati did a couple of years ago. I mean, what TCU accomplished this year was, that was unbelievable what they actually came up with. I know they got blown out in the championship game, but that was a phenomenal thing that Spike Dykes accomplished. But I'm really hurting. I'm hurting for certain for one reason, because I love college football. You know, I got to play on 2 national championships in the 70s. I played with Ronnie Lott and Jeff Fisher and Clay Matthews and, you know, Marcus Allen and Charles White, God rest his soul, last week. You know, I saw great athletes up front and personal, and to be around that kind of a situation, much like Georgia in the last couple of years, is special. But get to stay at the top of the game the whole way. And, it's just a matter of time from turns. And, I'd really like to see Pitt and Penn State get back into that top echelon.
Absolutely.
I'm a Narduzzi fan. I love the way he plays defense. I love the way he coaches kids. You know, I think you're seeing James Franklin starting to get his roots together. He's excited for everything that's going on in ball, but they have to get a lid on this name, image, and likeness in the transfer portal. Somehow, 6 schools in 7 years.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Look what did to college basketball, honestly, Ralph.
Yes. Yeah, it's college basketball is
awesome.
Another one.
He really is.
Portal,
I remember him at Michigan State as the defensive coordinator.
Yes. Yeah, I remember Pat Narduzzi being there. Yeah. Yeah, he worked under D'Antonio or D'Antonio or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think Pat Narduzzi has done better
and he's always,
this year.
I'm sorry. I'm excited about the fact they're going to get Jurkovic. I think that's a great ad for them. Yes, the new quarterback they got from Boston College, who will be in his third school.
Exactly. Even Smokin' Jim even likes him. Yeah, he thinks he's a good. Yeah. Yeah, and he played. Jurkovic played under.
He's a tough big. I watched that year play some good.
Yes, exactly, and he.
It's going to be incumbent for them.
Nettie up there in Boston College. I think Jurkovic's going to be a good quarterback. We got this guy, this Valou guy from Penn State. He was a freshman or sophomore. He didn't play. He decided to transfer to Pitt. Yeah. And we got a few years with him, and we got this other tough, tall kid because Narduzzi said he wanted to go out and get tough quarterbacks with leadership. So I think these 3 guys that he got this Ty Yarber or Darber or something like that, big, tall kid, supposed to be real big, kind of like a Ben Roethlisberger type. And, so we're going to find out what Pitt does with these quarterbacks this year. I think they're going to do real well, so we'll see. But they have a tough schedule. Notre Dame, West Virginia. They're at Notre Dame, at West Virginia. They got Florida State back. Florida State.
I was really.
Yeah. Mike Norvell's doing real good down there. And, Mac Brown's still doing good.
But you know what? If you play the great teams, but if you play the great teams and you beat them, that moves you up in this whole college football playoff situation.
Yes, exactly.
And I got to tell you, the Panthers play. I don't think there's a lot of love laws between
No.
Narduzzi and James Franklin.
No, I don't
They
think
don't
so
seem
either,
to see
no.
eye to eye. That only enhances what I think is a great situation. And I'm
Yes.
sure looking forward to it all. I've been covering football now for 40 years. I started with Rams Score magazine when I left the Rams. Then
Right.
I had Raider Report, and
Oh, okay.
then we started to get into and KOA in Denver, and I watched the McCartney-led Colorado.
Right.
But
Yeah,
saw what he was able
Colorado
to
Buffaloes. Yeah,
accomplish,
Deion Sanders is
at
their coach
CU.
now.
So
Right. Artie, tell the
it's
tell the
going to be
viewers here.
exciting. Going to be real exciting for the Pac-12.
Oh yeah, yeah. Tell the viewers here and the audience here about your shows on satellite radio and podcasts or anything you have going on.
Yeah, well, we've got one show that's called Sports Overnight America. It's on 203, which is XM.
Right.
We do sports trivia. We talk about topics that are sometimes, like stuff that Humble covers a little bit on his show on HBO. We go out of the numbers and kind of get into the big stories. And then we also have a sports business podcast on Believe Sports, which has been fantastic because, the game of the sports world has gone nuts in the last decade. Between the LIV and the PGA Tour and, NFL and the salary caps and Major League Baseball and, the contract part of the game, the television contracts that are being signed. Who would have ever thought that the Big 12 would have a network put together, with USC and UCLA, and now they're after Oregon and Washington, and they're going to be getting $100 million for each team. I remember, and I went to a great school. It was a football powerhouse, but if you were at Oregon State and you had to play against USC, that was a tough situation. Now it seems as though, and I'm a little worried about the Pac-10 without SC and UCLA because that's a huge market. But what Kevin Warren accomplished with the Big 10 plus 6, I call it.
Right.
I'm amazed that he left for the Chicago Bears is what I'm basically trying to say, Ralph.
Oh,
And I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Smokin' Jim. But
Jim,
I think that to me, that's not kind of where I would want to go in this situation.
Right. Smokin' Jim.
Yeah, I was equally shocked. There's no way I left that college football situation for that job.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't have done it either.
Because I'm telling you, he would have been the perfect guy. He would have been the guy to tie this all together.
Right.
In my mind, he would have been the perfect guy to tie this whole college football thing together, to be the commissioner and basically, say, look, okay, here's the deal. You can leave one time. If the coach leaves, we'll give you an opportunity to go somewhere else. Okay.
Right.
But you can't go interconference. You can't go Pac-10, Pac-12 to Pac-12. You can't go SEC to SEC. You got to go a lot of little things like that. That would just keep things at bay, because once Oklahoma and Texas get into SEC and SC and UCLA get in the Big 10 plus 6, wow, it's going to be crazy times.
It's going to be. Yeah,
what's cool is you're going to have Michigan or Ohio State.
Right. Yeah. Well, as you mentioned earlier in the show, Artie, we need the college football needs to clean their house up a little bit and really start getting enforcing some of these rules. Because I think that it's horrible. It's a free for all, Artie, and the free for all. You wouldn't expect it in college football. In the NFL, that's another issue. But college football, basketball, people enjoy. I enjoy watching college basketball. I don't even watch the NBA. I watch college basketball. No, and I enjoy college football. I enjoy any kind of football. You know what I mean? At all, as long as it's football. And so, and I'll take it all year long if I need to, because that's how much of football I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Artie,
And you know what? I was amazed at how the USFL.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. USFL, you got the XFL this year, and you have, that Major League Football. They went out of business. They didn't even get started. Jerry Glanville was the first coach to get hired. And, they didn't go and, they didn't even get started. They just folded. I'm hoping that the USFL and the XFL can make it, because these spring football leagues, they haven't been doing it. And I don't know, if people just don't get into it. They don't have the money for it. I don't know,
And here's what I want to see. I want to see him play in smaller venues, 25,
Right.
30,000 seat stadiums. Okay. I want to see him be home team. This playing all the games in one stadium, it didn't work. I mean, it was like watching studio football to me. Hey, I remember the Pittsburgh Maulers. Pittsburgh Maulers put a good product out there. I mean, it can be done. It absolutely can be done. There's enough venues out there that can support it. And it also helps the NFL, because there's a lot of guys that slip through the grades. I mean, it's not a science. I've watched the Steelers draft a lot of defensive backs the last 10 years that aren't playing in the NFL right now.
Yeah. Hang on, Artie.
Hey, Ralph, I got one quick question for Artie.
Go ahead.
Hey, Artie, I'm one of the all-time biggest USC fans of all time. I grew up on Sunday mornings watching highlights before I went to church. Is it true that Ronnie Lott was a great high school running back and was recruited to play running back at USC, and Marcus Allen was a great high school defensive back and was recruited to play defensive back at USC?
Yeah, Marcus Allen was still one of the greatest blocking fullbacks I ever saw. The first year that he blocked for Charles won the Heisman in both 78 and 79, he was unbelievable. And but Ronnie Lott, let me tell you something. I can't tell you. My senior year, I used to like to play a little linebacker. I'm a big guy. I played high school football. I was the kicker. And, I used to get in there and do my thing a little bit. And I'm in the backfield, and I look around, and I see, I'll never forget this, Ronnie Lott, Dennis Smith, and Jeff Fisher.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, we're going 3 deep. I'm blitzing.
What a crew.
and Robinson walks over to me. He goes, what defense was that? I said, Coach, these 3 guys over here, they shouldn't be on the shit squad defense. I came out, where's my guys? Where's my guys? I said, I'm a kicker here. That's it. I'm not doing that with 3BB.
Right. Hey, Artie, I want to thank you for being part of the program tonight. I really appreciate you being on. We'll have you come on again and talk some more, like around the Super Bowl and whatnot. So I really appreciate it. And to all your satellite listeners and everything else, I really appreciate you being on here as well. And Smokin, Jimmy,
my pleasure, you guys. And Mark Mancini's salt of the earth, and I'm glad you guys are doing what you're doing, the Sports Corner.
Yes.
I've actually listened to a couple of your shows. I like to prepare a little bit, and I was real impressed with what you guys are doing. And, the last Ralph Williams that I knew in life was a big car dealer in Southern California, Ralph Williams Ford.
Wow.
And I went out with his daughter in college. Her name was Daiquiri. And I asked him one day, why'd you name her Daiquiri? She was created on Daiquiri.
Well, you know what? Some people said I should have been a car salesman because I have that, that talking thing. You know what I mean? I can sell a car. So, but yeah. So, Artie, thank you for being on the program. It was great having you on. And,
so we all kissed the Blarney Stone a little bit.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Have a great one, Artie. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hey, God bless you guys. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome.
And I love it.
Anytime.
Just remember, I'm married to a Pittsburgh girl, and we love Pittsburgh.
Hey, very good. Thank you. All right,
guys.
All right, that was Artie Source from Satellite Radio, and he has some podcasts, and he's a player from USC. Artie was great on the show. I really appreciate having him on. We're going to try to get him on again. Smokin, Jim Frazier, what's your thoughts on everything Artie had to say?
Well, I tell you what, man, like I said before, I was a huge USC fan. I grew up, that was my favorite team, watching them on Sunday mornings along with Grambling and Notre Dame highlights. And I remember my youth league football team, my midget league football team. I think we were ranked, the coach said we were ranked 6th or 8th in the nation. And I never forget that because I thought, man, I'll be able to play for USC one day. You know what I mean? That was just my dream to play for them, man, and all the great players that they had. And for him to play for 2 national championship teams, and I kind of forgot about that. And the late Charles White, who was the tailback, and Marcus Allen was the fullback. And then Marcus Allen, after Charles White went to the NFL, Marcus Allen went back to the tailback and won the Heisman Trophy. Man, it's just amazing to meet somebody to play for
Troy
such a
Polamalu,
great team.
USC put out a lot of athletes over the years, Smokin' Jim, you have to admit. And they're one heck of a university. They did real well this year under Lincoln Riley. Kind of surprised me a little bit. What do you think Jordan Addison's going to do, Smokin' Jim? I forgot to ask Artie that question.
Well, I changed my, last week when we talked, I said that if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm drafting tight end, maybe Mike Meyer from Notre Dame in the first round, and then the linebacker in the second round, which is still a first-round pick, 32nd pick, and Noah Sewell. But I tell you what, now I've changed my opinion. Looking at Joe Burrow, after his first year, he told the team to go after Jamar Chase. And if Kenny Pickett is your franchise quarterback, and he's been very public saying that he wants Addison. I think that you have to make sure that you get Addison in here with one of the first 2 picks. And that way your quarterback has a number 1 receiver.
All right, Penguins 5-5 tie with the Florida Panthers in the 3rd. So there we are, Pittsburgh Penguins. Stacy asked how we're doing. I told her we're doing real well. Thank you for watching, Stacy. I appreciate it. In the comments section, you two can put your comments up on the show if you like tonight's guest, Matt and Artie. And all right, Smokin' Jim, let's get back to this. You know what, Smokin' Jim, I got to give it to you. I got to give it to Claudio. I got to give it to several other people who said Matt Canada was coming back. I thought, and I talked to some experts in the Steelers, and they said no, he was fired at the end of the season by hook or by crook. Well, it turns out that Matt Canada is not getting fired, and that mediocre Mike is doing all these interviews from home because he has a personal issue. I kind of thought maybe the personal issue was COVID, and I got beat up on the comments section after our show last week about him, or I made a comment he had COVID on social media, and I got beat up by everybody. So what's your thoughts on this Matt Canada thing? Do you think it's right that they can't bring him here? Do you think they need to bring in an offensive assistant, like, the assistant to the assistant at the movie theater or something like that? You think they need to do something like that?
What I would try to do is if Coach Tomlin is still very close to Byron Leftwich, I'd bring him in as an assistant, similar to what they did with Brian Flores last year. I think Sullivan's a decent enough quarterback coach. But I wasn't surprised. You know what I mean? When you major in your minor, you got a coaching staff that'll do anything not to coach. And, there's no way that any sane organization would have hired Matt Canada as their offensive coordinator or continued after the 2 years that he had here. But I knew that, I knew Mike Tomlin, and I knew the Rooneys and how cheap they could be. And I know the coaches' salaries are guaranteed, and they allow Matt Canada to pick his offensive staff. And there's nobody probably other than Pat Myers that would probably be hired by another team. So the Rooneys would have been on the hook to pay that whole coaching staff for the next couple of years while they were unemployed. So that's one of the main reasons why I knew that Matt Canada would be back.
Yeah, well, then he was getting all these endorsements and everything else. Now, my next question to you is, I hear Kenny Pickett's going to do something like Mitch Trubisky did last year, and he's going to have a summit at his house or something, or they're going to meet somewhere, and he's going to try to get what he calls a serious relationship with his wide receivers. What do you think of this thing that Kenny Pickett's possibly going to do?
Well, Kenny Pickett got the personality of David Jones of the New York Giants. I mean, hey, just stay in your lane. That ain't his thing. You know what I mean? Kenny Pickett's a quiet kid from New Jersey, just like David Jones is just a quiet guy.
Right.
Hey, listen, you don't have to. It's not every quarterback don't have to be a raw leader. Just do your job. Just get better. And show you. Sometimes the best leadership is just shown by being the first one there and the last one to leave, and how hard you work.
Right.
Getting these guys rallied around, man. Now, I tell you what, man, I would be if I'm the coaches, I'd be afraid that somebody wouldn't come out of there, helping. So, what happened the last time something like that happened. So I'd imagine they're going to all go up in New Jersey somewhere and have a summit. No, listen, you meet enough on the South Side and for voluntary workouts and mini camps and all that, man. That's enough.
Well, I heard they're going to go to the movies together. They're going to go bowling. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Yeah. Just, they do that at training camp or something. They go bowling. They go to the theater or whatever they do. You know what I mean? Yeah. Steelers draft number 17, Smokin' Jim. You think they can get what they want at that position? I think they can. 17 is not a bad place to be, I guess. They were sort of in that position last year. They were around 20, 22 or something like that. And so we're going to cover the draft thoroughly. I have Joe Kuglis going to be coming on. We're going to have another draft show here, and we're going to have a draft show in our TV edition in April of Sports Corner. So we're going to have the draft covered, Smokin' Jim. Right now, there's a mock draft out already on the NFL Network. They have him taking an outside linebacker from Florida, and I haven't got the skinny on him yet, but I will. They're saying the prediction right now from the NFL Network in the first mock draft that they put out like the other day says the Steelers are taking this guy from outside linebacker from Florida. What do you think the first round should be? Do you think it should be linebacker again, or do you think we need to get we do need a shutdown corner? We need a bunch of stuff. What do you think we should do?
Well, I think the NFL Network or whoever said that is borderline insane. The Steelers.
It was David Jeremiah. Okay.
Well, I tell you what, it must have been some kind of a misprint because they got two all-pro caliber outside linebackers, with T.J. Watt being the best in all of football, and Highsmith had 15 sacks. The Steelers need help in the middle, and I can see a middle linebacker, but not an outside linebacker. Again, I would see where Addison is projected, whether it's mid-first, late-first, mid to late second, but wherever he's projected, that would tell me where I need to bring him in, because they cannot allow Addison to be scooped up by another team. I would not wait beyond the spot that he should be drafted. Mm-hmm. If he was going to be drafted in the mid-second round, I'm taking him with the 32nd pick.
Right.
If he's projected to be a first-round pick, I'm taking him with pick number 17. I'm going to do everything I can to help out my second-year quarterback in Kenny Pickett, and that would help him out. That's what he wants. And I think Addison would immediately be the number one receiver. George Pickens can never be a number one receiver. He doesn't run good enough routes. He's not interested in that. He's going to pout but he's your big play receiver. So you could have your Chris Carter on one side and Addison and your Randy Moss and Pickens on the other side. So that's what I would do.
All right, Smokin' Jim. Malkin just scored 6-5 Pens. Third period, 5 minutes to go.
Woo,
6-5
what a game.
Pens.
What
oh,
a
yeah.
game. I thought the
Yeah,
Pens
Malkin
would blow
scored
them
on
out
this
tonight.
one. What's that?
Yeah, I thought the Pens would blow them out tonight because the Panthers played last night in New York, and they had to fly to Pittsburgh to play again the very next day. So hockey teams don't do very well in back-to-back games. But I tell you what, man, what a game!
Oh,
what
yeah.
a game.
Yeah, I
How's
didn't
Letang
expect this
doing,
either.
You know?
Who?
Letang.
He made a mistake earlier. He did something wrong, and they scored a goal. The problem right now, Smokin' Jim, with the Pens is they're making too many mistakes and doing too many boneheaded things that's causing them to lose games. They can't win in overtime. They're the worst team in the league in overtime. Their defense, I don't know where they're sleeping on the job, and then the special teams are terrible too. So it's a round the clock thing here with the Penguins as far as that goes. Anyway, let's get back to the Steelers real quick. Rashard Mendenhall this week on social media, Smokin' Jim, and you know how this goes. He made some remarks about Ben, says he was a poor leader when he was the quarterback. I think Rashard Mendenhall should just go somewhere because he was the guy who kind of retired early and, he got his Super Bowl ring and then he decided, forget it, I'm done. I left. And, Rashard Mendenhall, what's your thoughts on this?
No matter what kind of teammate somebody is, they're still entitled to their opinion, and I agree with that. Everything I heard from Big Ben, everything I witnessed from Big Ben, and I love Big Ben.
Right.
I loved him in college. He was my number one quarterback coming out in the 2004 draft. Just immensely talented guy. But Big Ben was rotten. He wouldn't give Arnold Palmer's grandson an autograph. Arnold Palmer kicked him off his golf course. Big Ben, you know what I mean? Big Ben's just a rotten dude, man. He goes into restaurants, man.
Yeah, and he don't tip. He wants free food.
He don't tip. He don't pay his bills. The whole bit, man. So, I'm not surprised, man. They had a lot of problems with Big Ben and his teammates, but he was always smart because he always surrounded himself not with the little wide receivers and running backs. He always surrounded himself with the big offensive linemen. He loved his offensive linemen. They worked as his security while he had girls in the bathroom and make sure nobody came in. You know what I mean? But hey, man, Big Ben's a right dude.
We got some comments in the comments section. Eric says, Miami of Ohio legend, Ben Roethlisberger. Well, of course, he was good in Miami of Ohio, yeah. Anyway, next up, the Steelers re-signed Quincy Roche to a futures contract. Everybody remembers Quincy. He was drafted by us a few years back in the late rounds from Miami. It's just another body on the field. We'll see what he does, if he comes back around. Also, we have I'm hearing rumors that the Steelers are possibly looking at free agent Ben Powers. He's an offensive lineman for the Ravens, and there's been a few other offensive linemen around the league that have made comments that they want to come play for the Steelers. What's your thoughts, Smokin' Jim, on these guys?
Well, I tell you what, man, Quincy was big time in college.
Miami,
I don't know what happened with the Steelers, but coming out of Miami with the size he had and the ability. Matter of fact, he before he went to Miami, he probably would have been a high draft choice. He was an all-world player for Rutgers. And for some reason, this was before the portal. He transferred to Miami and kind of was just like a guy. But he has all the size in the world and athletic ability and skills to make plays. And so the Steelers may have a guy there that can play on the outside and maybe can give you some downs as a defensive end every once in a while as well. So let's see if he has anything left, because he certainly was a pretty good college player that was projected well in the 3-4 defense at outside linebacker.
Well, I told you about the Pens defense and the goaltending went to Smith. It's 6-6 now. Florida just scored again. I called it, Smokin' Jim. I said it. Their defense and their special teams horrible. They're making too many dumb mistakes, getting stupid penalties. It's ridiculous. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about Brian Flores. He's got another interview with the Arizona Cardinals to be their head coach. He's interviewed with the Houston Texans. I don't care what the Houston Texans pay me. I would never coach that team, no matter what happens. You know it, and I know it. And he's had some other defensive coordinator position interviews. Where do you think Brian Flores could go?
Woo, back to the South Side. I mean, I think they're all token interviews. You got to interview a black guy, and he fits the bill. He would be a good defensive coordinator somewhere. I don't know how you sue your employer and you still get promotion.
You still get a promotion.
I don't know where that's done at. You know what I mean? I thought the guy would be in XFL to USFL by now, but I guess it's possible to do. But I think he'll be back with the Pittsburgh Steelers next year. I'd be shocked and surprised. And I've been shocked and surprised before if somebody hired him as a head coach or offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator next year.
Okay, Smokin' Jim, 5 players who stunk this year. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Devin Bush, we know that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Moore Jr., Kendrick Green, who didn't even play, at all. He's a bum. Okay. Chase Claypool, which even going to Chicago, he didn't do anything, and Malik Reed. What do you think about this top 5?
That's pretty bad. It sounds like pretty bad drafting to me, brother.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. Okay, let's talk about the Pirates, as we all know, and I want to, we're going to cheer. Because rah, 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 it's great. Andrew McCutchen's back, Smokin' Jim. And the Pirates are going to go to World Series with Rich Hill, 42-year-old pitcher. And now they're looking at Quintana to bring him back with all these nice veteran pitchers and some of these other guys. I think they're going to go to World Series this year, Smokin' Jim. What do you think?
Oh, man, that's funny. I tell you, the Pirates, you got to give them credit, though. They did make a splash and a buzz with the signing to make baseball somewhat relevant here, in the off season. So let's see if they can continue the momentum.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that they might do a little bit better this year. I think they might lose 98 games instead of 100. So that's improvement because it's 2 games. So there you go. But I did hear a great story that Bob Nutting didn't say anything at the Andrew McCutchen thing. I heard he's been keeping his mouth pretty shut and keeping it low key. I told everybody, nobody believed me, that Travis Williams and Ben Cherington told him he needs to stay behind and he needs to keep his mouth shut and stay out of everything and just give us the money when we need it. And he's done that. He's given them that. They've signed all these guys, some of them the 1-year contracts, a few to 2 or 3. What do you think they're going to do with Brian Reynolds? Who do you think Brian Reynolds will go to? What team?
Ooh, I don't know. I think I would say more or less around the trade deadline time. I don't see it happening this early. What you say?
No, I don't either. I think they're going to keep him because I think they want to sort of keep him for the for the leadership, I guess. Because, that was the one big thing they had big issues with last year. They didn't have a lot of veteran leadership. And a lot of these kids, despite the fact that a lot of these players have talent, Smokin' Jim, but you can have all the talent in the world, but when you're immature and you have a cell phone in your back pocket and it's falling out and, you're in the dugout saying something to the umpire, and, somebody's got to control this stuff here. Not Ben Cherington, I'm sorry, Derek Sheldon. And, and Don Kelly, the bench coach. They have to control this, and they haven't. So now maybe we can get some veterans in here to say to these kids, hey, look, you can't have a cell phone in your pocket. You can't be yelling at the umpire from the dugout and get kicked out, okay, like that catcher did last year for us, and he ended up getting kicked out, and then he got cut by the Pirates for doing that. So you got to be careful what you do when you're a team who has to win games, and you need to win at all costs, and that's the cost of not winning when you do things like that. And I think that they need some kind of maturity thing there. As far as Brian Reynolds goes, Yankees, Dodgers, Rangers, Marlins, and Mariners. I hope he goes to either the Rangers or the Mariners. I don't want to see him because we don't play those teams very often, the Rangers and the Mariners. So I hope that's where he goes so he doesn't do anything against to hurt us. And I hope he has a great career. I mean, if he goes wherever he goes, Brian Reynolds. But I didn't like the idea that his agent spoke for him and came in and said he wanted traded. I thought that was wrong. And, there we are. All right, let's get back a little bit to the NFL. I forgot to do this after we did the Steelers, so we'll backtrack just a bit. New England, as you know, and if you don't know, Smokin' Jim has rehired Billy O'Brien. What do you think about this?
Who hired Billy O'Brien?
New England Patriots. They rehired him. He's going to be their offensive coordinator, and he's going to wash and wax Bill Belichick's car all the time. So.
Okay. I didn't even I didn't hear about that. I'm not surprised. But Bill Belichick still does what he wants when he wants to do it and how he wants to do it. So
that's why he's won all the Super Bowls he's won.
But Bill, you mean Bill O'Brien from Penn State?
Yes, Bill O'Brien, who coached at Penn State and was the offensive. The offensive.
Bill can coach.
Yeah,
he can coach. That's a good move. I was thinking that they let the defensive coordinator do offensive coordinator duties again.
Yeah, Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. Them two
Bill
couldn't coach.
Bill O'Brien will do a great job, especially with young quarterback like Jones. Bill O'Brien will get in your face. He don't care about your feelings. He's one of them type coaches, and I'll tell you what, man. I know the Houston Texans is probably wishing they would have retained him. They were a very competitive team with him as the head coach, and that organization kind of folded after that. But that's a good move by Belichick, bringing back Bill O'Brien. Yeah, real good coordinator.
All right, Dallas Cowboys. Offensive coordinator Kellen Moore interviewing for the Carolina job. And then Mike McCarthy was retained as the head coach of Dallas. And then also the Chargers, they interviewed, let's see here, Titans tight end coach Luke Steckel, who's son of Les Steckel, who used to once be an offensive mind. He also coached in the USFL and some other areas. And he was an assistant in college and in the pros. He's like another Jack Pardee. He's been everywhere. So, that's going on there. The Ravens are interviewing ex-Dolphins offensive coordinator Chad O'Shea for their job. They fired Greg Roman, this past week. And former Steeler wide receiver, my man, you ready? The waiver, Ryan Switzer, is going to be the new wide receivers coach at Tulsa. All right.
Wow,
he can teach everybody how to wave. Yep. He can teach everybody how to wave, Smokin' Jim. There you go. All right. We're I was going to do a few other things here, but I think it's getting kind of late. We're going to kind of wrap things up a little bit, Smokin' Jim. But I did want to go into some local stuff here. Central Catholic today hired their new head coach, Ryan Lamar. He's the former offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Seneca Valley. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. A lot of guys is coming out of Seneca Valley. Matter of fact, the Gateway's head coach, who's been doing a great job over there, came out of that Seneca Valley program. For a school that's never really won much, they sure do produce a lot of head coaches. So. Hey man, that's great. Anytime you can get a job with a Central Catholic that can recruit great kids, and you should pretty much be in the championship picture every year.
Okay, some last minute comments here, Smokin' Jim, before we go. Eric says it's true, probably better than Patricia said that the Bills fan. He's a Bills fan, and he said, but them and the Steelers in the playoffs next year. That's what his prediction is. Eric from Buffalo, New York. It's great to have people everywhere across the country and around the world and in the city of Pittsburgh and the surrounding area. I'm going to do an L. Levine here and say the surrounding area, Wexford and everywhere else, no matter where you are, people are listening to our show. I want to say this, Smokin' Jim, it was great to see Chip Hayner back in the chair. It was nice to see him tonight. One of these days, I'm going to meet him personally. I almost did at the Pirate game because we had a Pirate game together, but I had to leave early, and I didn't get a chance to go over and meet him. So one of these days, I'm going to meet up with Chip and say, hey, Chip, now you get to see me in person. There you go. So anyway, Smokin' Jim, any last-minute thoughts before we wrap it up?
I agree with you. It's good to see old Peg Leg back sitting next to me tonight.
Yeah, that was great. You can join Smokin' Jim on the Pittsburgh Sports Line on Bethel Park TV with Al Levine, the Talking Machine, and Chip Hayner, and a few other people that are off and on the show. The fourth name I'm not going to mention. So anyway, my final thoughts are tonight is, and I agree with Artie, college football needs to get their act together. They need to get their themselves put together. But I also want to say that tomorrow, 2:00 p.m., Mauler Talk is back. Pittsburgh Mauler Talk. By the way, Smokin' Jim, the Maulers now are black and gold. They got rid of the purple. They're black and gold now. Okay, wow. And there still hasn't been an announcement from the league as to where they're going to play. Now, here's what I have, and tomorrow at 2:00 we'll talk more on Mauler Talk right here on our normal platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and also Twitter and Twitch. And don't forget tomorrow night at 7:30, the best wrestling show in Pittsburgh, Talking Wrestling. We are the only local guys doing a wrestling talk show in Pittsburgh. No one else is doing it. No one else is on social media here doing anything locally as far as Talking Wrestling goes. And we have a lot to talk about tomorrow night, including I got some breaking news about someone being removed from the Royal Rumble. And the Pens just scored in overtime, and it's 7-6 victory. So there you go, Smokin' Jim.
Woo!
Yep, Pens just scored.
What a game.
Oh, yeah. And guess who scored the goal? Chris Letang.
Wow.
Yep, he just scored.
I was just asking about him.
Yep, 9th career-winning overtime goal. So there you go. Oh, Eric says thank you. And thank you, Eric. And thank you, Stacy. And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening to tonight's Sports Corner. We'll be back next Tuesday, 8:30. We have Marty Leap from Rum Bunters to come on and talk about the Pirates. I think they're going to World Series, Smokin' Jim, I'm telling you. So, they really got the players this year. I really believe that. We have Marty Leap coming on and working on a couple more guests or one or two more for next Tuesday. And please don't forget Thursday. Next Thursday, don't forget February 3rd, Sports Corner on PCTV, Channel 21, Comcast, 47 Verizon Cable Sports. And we talked a little bit of wrestling as well on Sports Corner with myself and Smokin' Jim Frazier. And I hope the phone lines are working better so we can get our calls in. Anyway, so Smokin' Jim Frazier, thank you. Have a great night and be safe, everybody. Thank you and have a good one.